Hi everybody, so I'm in New York. I'm growing giant lemons and other fruits, and I'm doing it in a small space. That huge lemon you saw was growing on my patio. Actually, still is. This is the lemon tree right here, not very tall at all. So there is a way that you can grow citrus tropical plants in a northern climate, even if you don't have space. So whether you're looking to grow tropical plants like citrus, or you're just looking to grow any fruit tree and you live in a cooler climate, don't have a lot of space, this video is for you. I'm gonna start off with a native plant that I absolutely love because it's been on my patio for 3 years and I get so much fruit from it. We're talking about blueberries. I will get back to the citrus in a bit because there is a science to getting citrus to produce fruit. There really is no science to getting blueberries to produce fruit. They do need a dormancy period in the wintertime, so I just leave it outside on my porch all winter long. It's a native plant that can handle extreme cold. There's some varieties now that can actually handle some pretty decent heat too. So Florida, for example, not typically a spot that grows blueberries very well historically, but now an amazing place to get fresh blueberries. And they actually produce blueberry fruit on and off all year long there, some of the newer varieties. Look at how loaded this is with fruit. Here I am for perspective. Absolutely loaded. And it's growing in a container. Did I fertilize it? Nope, I didn't do anything special. So blueberries are a great container plant. You don't need a lot of space and you don't need a lot of time investment. That's the problem with a lot of fruit trees. They take years and years to produce fruit. My persimmon tree, for example, let me go to it. This is an amazing, gorgeous, gorgeous tree. There are some that are native, some that are native to Japan, but all of them are cold tolerant in my climate here in New York. And they have the most beautiful leaves, the most beautiful fruit. If you've never eaten a persimmon, you are in for a treat. It is, it's hard to describe. It's like jammy. It kind of reminds me of honey. I feel like if honey was a fruit, it would be a persimmon. And it looks like an orange, so very pretty. But this is an example of a fruit tree that's not gonna produce fruit its first year. I actually did get fruit from it the first year, but the problem with that is it exerted all of its energy into producing fruit that year. So the second year, all of these immature fruits dropped. And I've had apples that don't even produce flowers the following year because it produced too much fruit. So too much fruit when it's young and not established will slow your tree down. I have this problem with citrus too. So persimmons are awesome because they do stay in the ground, but citrus need to go inside during the winter. So I, for many years, failed with citrus. I know a lot of people who have failed with citrus, but all my citrus do great now because I have cracked the case. I have figured out what citrus need to do well in our climate, and it's neglect. So you see right here, my garage, this is where it goes during the winter time. It's not heated and it stays pretty dark. Citrus trees are subtropical. So they can handle a dormancy period, and what I've noticed is that citrus flush in the springtime, like most fruit trees. So what I want to do is sync it with our season. If I brought these citrus inside the house and treated it like royalty, it would think that it's spring, and then it would produce all the flowers inside the house, and that's not going to give it enough energy to produce these delicious fruit. I am so hot and sweaty out here right now. I want to just like jump into the shower immediately after this video, and citrus require that kind of heat, that kind of sunlight to produce tasty fruit. So that's the secret to getting citrus to produce fruit. You want to sync it with the season. For me, that's bringing it into my garage. You could kind of bring it in and out of the house, leave it outside for a little bit during the cooler weather. You just don't want it to get below freezing. They are still freeze-sensitive plants. I have let mine get below freezing because some of these varieties, like Owari, is actually kind of cold tolerant. I wonder if they don't have the cold tolerant information on here, but I've seen it survive below freezing, and it has survived below freezing. So you got to know your variety. The big thing you hear about when people in Florida struggle with their citrus during the winter is not the tree dying. It's the problem is that the fruit ripens during the winter time. So like any fruit, you're going to really struggle to get that, you know, fruit to ripen in the cold. So the secret here for this particular issue is to get varieties that ripen very quickly. Like Owari will actually ripen in October and November instead of in the middle of winter. So that way you're not worried about fruit ripening on your tree when it's dark, cold, and gloomy outside. So the other problem with citrus, just like I mentioned with other fruit trees, is that they do need a rest period. They're not going to produce fruit nonstop. So like this actually produced no fruit last year at all. And the year before it had 13 fruit. So that's why I didn't produce any last year. This year we have tons and tons of fruit, immature fruit on it. Some of these will drop, and that's totally normal. Did one just drop on camera? I think I missed it. But some of these will drop. Oh, there you go. One just dropped. I don't know if you caught it, but some of them won't. So it's normal to get some fruit drop. That is the tree saying that I don't have the energy for all of this. And I think that's fair. I mean, how often do you start your day and maybe you have too many emails, too many text messages, and you're like, I just don't have the energy for this? Well, fruit trees do that too. So my favorite citrus is obviously the Owari Satsuma, which is like the cuties that you get at the store. By the way, this is all on my driveway, so anybody could grow this. You just need sunlight and a little space outside. I love verbena, by the way. Like, this is sold as an annual, but it is such a beautiful perennial in slightly warmer climates than New York. So I just put it in the garage, and it gets so big and beautiful every year. Like, $3 I paid for that plant, and look at it. This is like unbelievable. You can't get that at the store. So anyway, back to citrus. Meyer Lemons, love, because it's cheap, it's available, and it produces pretty well. It really does. And sometimes you'll even get like a rogue flower in the middle of the summer from a Meyer Lemon also. So it kind of produces fruit even more than just like that one little crop. Obviously, we talked about the Satsumas. Kumquats I love because you can't really get them at the store, and they actually produce flowers pretty well. This particular variety is not producing any flowers because it's still sorting its life out. That's fine. We don't need fruit trees to constantly be in production. All right, so we talked about citrus. I have a couple of them, and they all do really well because I do bring it into the garage during the winter. There are a few that I bring into the house, but I keep my house cold. So if you have like a plant room in your house so you could just sort of dedicate and keep it a little cooler, I'm not talking freezing cold, I'm talking like just cold enough to keep it from actively growing, then for me, that has been a really successful way to get them to do well, and it helps kind of fight against some of the diseases that they get, not even diseases, but pests that they get inside the house. Look how hazy it is outside, by the way. It is so humid, and I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I love it. Bananas, I'm just sort of growing for the fun novelty of it. I'll show you my bigger banana in the backyard, but this is a blood banana. Doesn't produce really any notable fruit, but it's got beautiful leaves, and that's really the main reason why you would want to grow a banana plant. There is a cold hardy banana that I'm going to take you to. First, we got to go through the poison ivy forest because I'm lazy and I'm doing organic gardening, and I'm like, oh, how am I going to kill this thing organically? I just want to like bleach it. But anyway, this is my apple tree. And last year, I didn't get a lot of apples. Problem with apples, there are two things. There are a couple things with apples. Firstly, they need a lot of space. So I have dedicated part of my side yard to my 2 apple trees. That's another problem with apples. Apple trees need a partner in life. Isn't that so romantic? Like citrus, no, you're fine. You just need one citrus and it'll sort itself out. But apples need to be fertilized with a partner that is slightly different genetically. It can't be like the same. Like if you want to grow like a Macintosh apple, you need to have a different apple next to it because that genetically similar plant isn't going to produce viable seed, which means you're not going to get fruit. That's what I've been told at least. So I have 2 apples. Anyway, problem number 3 with apples. So not enough space, which kind of also bleeds into the fact that you need 2 of them. So maybe that's one problem. But anyway, the other problem with it, you can number it how you want, is that it won't produce fruit if it's too warm during the winter time. Apples require chill hours, and it depends on what variety you have, but this little variety here gave me no fruit last year, and it was because it was too warm. Luckily, this winter was horrible for all my tropical plants. Lucky for this apple, at least. I was ready to pack my bags and move to Hawaii, and it's at least given me some fruit. So, you know what? Was it all worth it? No, it wasn't worth losing tons of palm trees, but I did get some apples out of a deal. And that's the other thing too about apples. Like most fruit trees, you guessed it, the more it produces one year, the less it produces another year. That's not a problem that you get with blueberries. So right now, blueberries take the lead as my #1 delicious plant that you can grow on your patio, because it's just gonna produce more and more fruit every year. You don't have to take them off. They just go wild, and I love it. Technically, tomatoes are a fruit, so I'm just going to show you my little garden in the front yard, which I need to weed. I know, I'm sorry, I'm bad. My cauliflower is doing really well because we had a cold March. I'm sorry, cold May. Kind of felt like March, though. I just picked a bunch of it, but you can see a bundle more of this purple cauliflower, which I got for free at my local library. They say the library's great. And I didn't believe them until I kind of discovered that they sell seeds there. And by sell, I mean give them away. A lot of libraries will give them away. So anyway, cauliflower is not a fruit. So that's not what this video is about. But tomatoes are, they're doing great. I have converted my front yard slowly and steadily into a tropical garden and a now raised container vegetable garden. So we're doing a lot of things. Back to the banana plants. I am going to show you my Musa Basjoo banana, the only banana that I could say reliably is cold hardy in New York. I don't do anything to this thing and it just comes back every year. It's kind of tiny now, but it grows so fast. This thing was underground 3 weeks ago, and now it's up to my hips. And by the end of the summer, it'll be probably about 6 or 7 feet tall. You can get fruit from a Musa Basjoo banana, but its common name is Japanese fiber banana. Fiber because the fruit is very fibrous. It's like a seed pod, you know? Like, would you eat a pine cone? I don't know. That's a bad representation. Would you eat a loofah? You know what a loofah is? Would you eat that? So that's basically what you get from a Musa Basjoo banana. The only bananas that are going to produce tasty fruit are the ones that don't survive the winter here, but you can overwinter in the garage. I have a lot of videos about that. I lost a lot of bananas this year because my garage got too cold, and this is a newer house for me. All of the winters I've had so far have been mild, so I'm still trying to figure out like where to store things. So the only bananas that survived in the garage were my kind of cold tolerant ones, like this Musa Silkkimensis, which isn't as cold tolerant as that Basjoo I just showed you. Like, I wouldn't plant it in the ground, but it's very cool tolerant, and it does produce fruit, but it's also not very tasty and doesn't really have any like banana to it. This is a Musa Ae Ae banana, which actually does produce delicious fruit, but we're growing this for the foliage, believe it or not, because some of this looks toasted. But these were its indoor leaves, and its indoor leaves, I don't care how much you try and acclimate a banana plant to the outside. Like my other tropical plants, acclimated beautifully. I have videos on that on my channel too. But yeah, bananas, you can try all you want. They're gonna look like this when you bring them outside, but they're gonna grow new leaves really fast. So no problems here. Look how cute this canna is. Anyway, so technically fruit trees, but would I recommend you growing a banana to survive the apocalypse? No. Not in New York. In the South, absolutely. That is the easiest fruit tree that you could grow. So that takes me to my final tree, which means I gotta go back to the front yard. We are going to talk about the easiest fruit tree to grow here in New York. And I'm gonna manifest my Italian ancestors who would be so proud that I am growing this plant. And that means only one thing. What is a plant that is ubiquitous to New York that really shouldn't even be growing here because it's a Mediterranean plant? It's figs. Fig trees, you would think shouldn't do well in our climate, but for some reason they do. They prefer Mediterranean climates like Italy and California. But what I love about figs is that it's not actually a fruit tree. And I have a much bigger one at my parents' house. Again, haven't really lived here for that long. So this one's just a little baby, but I have it in the ground. And I'm gonna show you some figs that you could grow in a container too. But if you wanna grow one in the ground in New York, you don't really have to wrap it. It can handle down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I would say like -13-ish Celsius. And as long as it's not like that for a really sustained amount of time, it'll grow back. So actually all of this is new growth. And we have lanternflies on this. Unfortunately, lanternflies like fruit trees. This is a problem as of the last few years. Spotted lanternflies are really horrible. They take the sap from fruit trees. They don't put holes in your leaves. So if you have holes in your leaves, that's not from a lanternfly. They suck the sap, they reduce the quality of the fruit, and there are a couple of creative solutions, but right now we're talking about trees that do really well. And honestly, figs, regardless of if you have lanternflies or not, are going to produce great fruit. The only problem with a fig tree is that you need to pick a variety that ripens fast. There are some varieties that will ripen in July. You get 2 crops from figs. You get a Breba crop, which are the figs that survive from the winter time, and I have that at my parents' house. You need a mild winter or a really hardy fig variety for a Breba crop. So I have it's called Biago's Blush, and it's my favorite fig variety, and it does produce a crop twice, one in July, one in September and October, but you need to have that cold tolerance or mild winter to get 2 crops of figs. So that's the limitation. That's the one thing about figs that makes it a complication to grow, is that some need a lot more heat and humidity and, sunshine to ripen. So especially if you live in a cold climate, you got to stick that fig in the hottest part of your yard. They love water, but they love heat. Love it. So make sure that you find a hot southern part of your yard that gets bathed in sunshine, unless you have a more cold tolerant variety or a faster fruiting one. And do you need a giant backyard? My fig tree at my parents' house has taken over. I'm not gonna lie, and they can get absolutely massive. But there are some varieties that are allegedly pretty good in containers. This one's a little baby. It's gonna hopefully stay kind of small though, so it's hopefully gonna spend its whole life in this container. It's called Little Miss Figgy. Isn't that cute? It produces tiny figs, usually in July, and so it's an earlier fruiter, and it produces well in a container. There's also another one being sold called Fignominal. I just started seeing that in nurseries this year. I saw some mail order nurseries starting to carry that last year, and it's allegedly pretty cold tolerant, and more importantly, it actually produces fruit multiple times throughout the year. So you could technically keep it as a houseplant if that's your thing. So Fignominal might be a fun one to try. It's supposed to stay small. If you have a fig in a container, what you need to do is give it a dormancy period, because it is a subtropical plant, so it does need a break during the winter time for the most part. You could keep it in your house, but it's going to produce weak growth, and it might kind of mess the plant up a little bit in the springtime because it'll be very weak. And so I recommend, if you have a garage, put it in there, or if you don't have a garage, just keep it outside through a few freezes, let it drop all its leaves, and then just kind of bring it in and out between mild days. So that's my recommendation with figs. I wouldn't keep a fig tree in a container outside all winter long. All right, so I'm gonna sit down for this last part of the video because I have nothing to show you, because we're talking about fruit trees and fruits that just aren't really worth growing. And one of them are strawberries for me. I actually do grow them because I think they're very pretty, but I'm not expecting to get like a bowl of fruit from it every year. What I like about strawberries is that they come back, they're perennial, but the quality of the fruit just isn't great because the fruit's so soft. Worms get in it. It's just kind of not like a good plant if you want a lot of it. Another one I don't recommend maybe are apples, because you need to dedicate so much space and time. This is my 3rd year growing those apple trees. I'm really only getting like a couple of fruit every year, and it is a big space commitment. So if you have tons of space, then apples are great. But this video is specifically for people like me, where you're kind of short on space. I don't really recommend like peaches or plums or cherries for that reason. Big time and space commitment. I love the blueberries. I think that's probably my favorite right now because they're so easy. I like growing plants that are unusual, like figs and persimmons. What I like about these is that, yes, you may not get a lot of fruit, but you're not going to find them cheap or even at all at some grocery stores. Like, you've got to really be on the hunt for figs and persimmons, and it's not a plant that's going to be cheap. or fruit that's going to be cheap. So that's why I kind of prefer those over like the apples and pears that you can get really affordably. Even at local farmers markets, you could support local farmers in New York. We're literally the apple state, and get so many apples, and they'll be delicious. There are a couple others that I don't really recommend. Grapes. I tried growing a grape in a container, and I got grapes, but they were the nastiest grapes I have ever eaten in my life. So that was year one, well, year two with them. I'm gonna try again, and then I'm giving it away, because grapes get huge. They are really pretty, but yeah, for fruit, I don't know. I grew a Concord grape, and it tasted like toxic. It was horrible, and there were seeds in it. And I thought Concord was a seedless variety. You know what was funny though? I actually went to Italy a week ago, so I was very inspired by all the fruits there, and I ate the grapes, and they had seeds in them, and I was like, wow, they're really eating grapes with seeds in them. Like, I totally forgot that was even a thing, because, and I wasn't saying like one or two rogue grapes with seeds. Like, have you ever eaten a grape and it's like loaded with seeds before? Because that was my first time. It was pretty tasty though, but I like my seedless grapes, and I like when they taste good. And my Concord grape was neither of those. Trying to think of other ones that I really don't recommend. I'm kind of just recently entering the fruit game, so I think I'm going to leave it to you in the comments. Let me know, like, what fruit trees do you recommend? Small space, maybe tropical. I'll show you another one that I actually do like that's tropical and worth growing, and that is the miracle fruit. Miracle fruit are kind of like, I don't know, almost too good to be true, because you eat the fruit from this, and things that are sour taste sweet. Like, the best example, and I've tasted them before, so it's not a gimmick, like, it actually does make lemons taste like lemonade, for example. Beer is supposed to be kind of like chocolate milk. So you could buy like miracle fruit tablets or something online, but I'm experimenting with this plant, and I think that'll be kind of fun, because that's not a plant that you can easily find fruit for at the store. Like, you're not going to find a miracle fruit at the store, and it is supposed to fruit in containers, but it takes a while to produce fruit, and I don't know how it's going to do inside the house during the winter, so there's some question marks about that. As you can see, I gave you a tour of my whole garden basically, and there's not a lot of space, but I cram a lot of fun plants in here. So if you do see any other, or rather, maybe if you don't see a plant that you want to see in my garden, let me know, because I'm always on the hunt to try new things. Of course, this garden video was just about fruit, but I definitely am looking forward to talking about a bunch of other fun stuff as the season progresses. So anyway, I'll see y'all later.